Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. And tonight's Raw was from the All-State Arena in Chicago, Illinois. And I gotta say, tonight's Raw, as usual, was complete fucking garbage. It was a shitty show. I mean, Raw's build to WrestleMania has been absolute crap, in my opinion. It's been nothing but shit. SmackDown, to me, is doing a much better job at building for WrestleMania. But all in all, Raw was complete shit tonight. But let's get on with the review. So tonight's Raw opened up with Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman coming out. The Chicago crowd, booed the hell out of them. And there was burn it down chants. And Paul Heyman says Seth Rollins is the one who wanted Brock Lesnar to show up to Raw tonight. And he ends up calling Seth Rollins a revisionist and a Heyman level propagandist and a fool. He asks the crowd as, if their opinions mean anything, whether, AJ Styles beat Brock Lesnar. And of course, no, AJ Styles didn't defeat Brock Lesnar. So he goes on to mention, did Daniel Bryan win against Brock Lesnar? Did Finn Balor win against Brock Lesnar? No. And Seth comes out and, he's calling Brock Lesnar out tonight. And he says 20 days from fighting for his life, Rollins wants to fight, known career killer Drew McIntyre. And so Drew McIntyre ends up coming out. He says, it's refreshing to finally get the respect he's earned. And he tells the crowd, he tells the crowd to be silent while he speaks. And so McIntyre ends up talking about how he brutalized Roman last week and then brutalized Dean Ambrose in that Falls Count Anywhere match, which was the main event of Monday Night Raw last week. And, he's like, last week he brutalized Roman Reigns, and he also then brutalized Dean Ambrose when, he came to try to save, his brother, when Seth tried to come and save it, when Dean tried to come and save his brother. And he ends up telling Brock to get Paul Heyman to find him a new opponent for WrestleMania. Because McIntyre says after tonight, Seth Rollins is not going to make it to WrestleMania. And so then we see Seth Rollins attacks Drew McIntyre from behind with the chair. He ends up hitting McIntyre with the chair a few times, and the referees end up coming down to get Rollins away. And Seth Rollins, wasn't having it. And then we see Seth end up rushing to the ring with the chair. And Brock, of course, slips out of the ring. He gets out of the ring. And, Seth Rollins was like, oh, come on, Lesnar, get in the ring. And Lesnar, wants to get back in the ring and fight, but Paul Heyman reminds Lesnar, he's not getting paid for this. And we just see Lesnar then simply holds the Universal title up high, and that's how the segment ended. But I thought it was a decent opening to Raw tonight. Thought it was decent opening. And then after that we had Finn Balor ends up coming out, and Raw goes to commercial. Then when Raw comes back from commercial, Balor was still in the ring. The tag team match was going to happen after this, and Balor, is out. He gets on the mic. He wishes the Chicago crowd a happy belated St. Patrick's Day. And he says, his luck of the Irish wasn't on his side when he lost the Intercontinental title to Bobby Lashley last week. And so then he gets interrupted by Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush. And Lio Rush says to Bobby Lashley that it looks like the Leprechaun, which Lio Rush was talking about, Finn Balor. So Lio Rush says, it looks like the Leprechaun is upset because he got gold around his waist, because Lashley has gold around his waist. And he says to Bobby Lashley, before we start this match, let's show the people, to show them, a championship. And so Lashley ends up holding up the Intercontinental title, showing the people. Crowd was booing him. And Finn Balor says to Bobby Lashley to enjoy the pose, because he's going to take the Intercontinental title back real soon. And so Finn reveals his mystery partner. And, this was Finn Balor and his mystery partner versus Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush in a tag team match. And so Finn reveals his mystery partner is Braun Strowman, which of course, we all knew, which of course I called it. So it was Finn Balor and Braun Strowman versus Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush. Match itself, it was okay. Back and forth between them. At one point where Balor was holding Lio Rush, and so Strowman could shoulder tackle him, but Lashley ended up spearing Balor into the timekeeper area, and then the match ended with Braun Strowman ends up hitting a running power slam to Lio Rush to score the win for him and Balor. So the match itself, it was okay. Then we saw Ronda Rousey. She arrived to the arena with her husband, Travis Browne. And referee John Cone comes, and he comes with security. And he's telling Ronda that she's been fined for arriving late. Pretty much, that was basically what happened backstage. But, we all heard that report that Ronda got fined for slapping the referee last week. Had a report of it, WWE put out. And so then after that, we had Alexa Bliss come out for her moment of piss. And this was fucking boring here. This was complete shit. So Alexa ends up giving Michael Cole and Corey Graves and Renee Young the rundown of the matches that were announced for Mania so far. And so after that, she goes on to say that she thinks she's a good talk show host, and she thinks she's inspiring people all over the world. And she introduces her guest, who was Elias. Yeah, as I would now call him Borlias, because it is boring whenever he's out. It's just the same shit that Elias does every single week with coming out, say, hello, my name is Elias. Hello, my name is Borlias. That's how I would call it. And so Alexa says to Borlias, that her show is a safe place and that no one is going to interrupt his announcement. So Borlias says he's going to be the musical headline act of WrestleMania. And when he announced that, I was like, oh my god. Yeah, WWE could pick musical headline act for WrestleMania when, they haven't even gotten most of the matches announced yet for Mania. And I heard there's going to be 17 matches for Mania, and it's going to be one of the longest Manias this year. And I'm like, oh boy, everybody start preparing, have a lot of food in the fridge, because it's going to be one long WrestleMania this year. Who knows how many hours it's going to go for? So prepare people. Oh yeah, just by that announcement, let's make Mania worse now. And so, Elias says last year, he said WrestleMania was going to be his greatest performance, which unfortunately it wasn't, because because John Cena ended up ending it. And he says last year's WrestleMania served as motivation for him for this year. And he was born to live in this moment of pressure, and in fact thrives on it. He goes on to say if his performance at WrestleMania was a game-winning field goal, he make it every single time. And then we get No Way Jose's music ends up hitting. His conga line comes out, and you have Heavy Machinery, Otis, Dozovic, Tucker Knight. They're in the front of the line, and I'm like, man, already WWE is already ruining Otis, Dozovic, and Tucker Knight. Might as well ship them back down to NXT if they're going to put them in this. So they conga around the set for a moment of piss. And Alexa goes on to say that, says, oh, what are you doing? What are they doing? And that's too early. And, she ends up saying that the conga line was supposed to happen after the show. And she invited them for a talk show, gag. And she asks why she had 10 rehearsals if Otis Dozovic was going to come in early like this. And so Elias says, in life, like music, timing is everything. And so he gets attacked from behind by a guy dressed in a cheeseburger costume and who was wearing a lucha mask. So the guy takes off the lucha mask, and it's revealed to be No Way Jose. If you remember what happened last week, Elias ended up attacking No Way Jose. And so then we had a match. Elias versus No Way Jose. I mean, this match was fucking terrible. This was a terrible fucking match. And yes, this is WrestleMania season. Yes, this is WrestleMania season with this. Doesn't even feel like WrestleMania season. I mean, this match was garbage. Who gave a shit about this match? Did any of you give a shit about this match? For sure, I didn't. So, Elias ended up winning. Drift away on No Way Jose. I mean, who gives a shit? Who gave a shit about this match? Moving on. So, Kurt Angle ends up coming out, and oh my god, I'm like, I'll get to this. Kurt Angle ends up coming out, and he says the Kurt Angle farewell tour continues, and he's going to have a match tonight in Chicago. He ends up saying WrestleMania is 20 days away. Yes, we are 20 days away from WrestleMania. And he goes on to say at WrestleMania is 20 days away and will be the last time he competes. And so the Chicago crowd ended up cheering, thank you, Kurt. And Kurt ends up thanking the Chicago crowd. And he says he would like to thank the McMahon family for allowing him to pick his opponent for his farewell match. He ends up saying that there are so many stars he would love to face, but there is one he would like to beat. And when he announced his opponent for WrestleMania for his final match, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? And I'm like, this is where WWE ended up dropping the ball right here. Kurt Angle says it's the guy who has made his life a living hell since he's been the GM of Raw. He says that man is Baron Corbin. God almighty. And he says nothing will make him happier than to make Corbin tap out at Mania. And he can end his career the happiest man in the world. Please hand me a pillow and a blanket when that match happens at Mania. That's what it is. It's going to be a boring bathroom break match. WWE could have had something special for Kurt Angle for his farewell match. He could have had John Cena as his final opponent. That's what I wanted. That's what I was predicting WWE would do. Hell, people said, if John Cena wasn't available, why not put The Undertaker with John Cena? But there are reports saying that, if they were to get Undertaker for WrestleMania, if Undertaker does decide to show up for WrestleMania, they were going to put Taker and Balor and have Balor be the Demon King at WrestleMania once again. But man, out of John Cena, or if they wanted The Undertaker, they go with Baron Corbin. God, it's going to be a fucking boring match. That's going to be a boring-ass match. What a disappointing way for Kurt Angle to go out in his final match. Having a match with Baron Corbin. So then we had the match, Kurt Angle versus Chad Gable. And the match itself, I thought, it was okay, in my opinion. Thought Kurt Angle and Gable put up an okay match. They were both okay here in this match. It was back and forth between them, and of course Kurt Angle got the win. He ended up locking in the ankle lock on Chad Gable. Chad Gable ended up tapping out. So Kurt Angle ends up winning. And then after the match, you had Baron Corbin comes out. He ends up criticizing the Chicago crowd for booing him as Kurt Angle's WrestleMania opponent. And he talks about how he enjoyed laughing at and humiliating Kurt Angle when he was the general manager. And he was like, that's not going to be as good as humiliating him in his very last match. And he goes on to say, all these people will remember is his very last match. It's true. It's damn true. So that's what Baron Corbin had to say. Kurt Angle versus Chad Gable, I thought it was okay. Then we had Baron Corbin and the Revival backstage. Apollo Crews ends up coming up to Corbin, and he ends up saying to him he wants his chance tonight. And Corbin says, he will face Apollo Crews tonight. And Apollo says, oh, why you got to be so difficult? Because everyone doesn't like you. And Corbin says, well, they like me, which, he was pointing at the Revival. And the Revival end up laughing and saying, no, we don't like you. So that was the backstage segment with them. So then we saw Charlie Caruso. She ends up interviewing Sasha Banks and Bayley. Bayley ends up saying they're not ducking anyone, and they'll defend the titles anywhere and against anyone that will make a challenge. And she then announces that both her and Sasha are going to be appearing on SmackDown tomorrow night. So, of course, the Iconics, Peyton Royce and Billie Kay, they've been on social media, wanting them to challenge Sasha and Bayley for the tag team titles, for the women's tag team titles. And Natalya and Beth Phoenix end up coming out. Beth Phoenix talks about how they respect what Sasha and Bayley have done to make the tag team titles happen, and how they bring respect to the titles every week. She ends up saying she and Natalya would have loved to have that opportunity back when she was full-time and she was content with her role on commentary. So Beth Phoenix says she was content until she saw Nia Jax and Tamina trying to set them all back with their jealousy and their pettiness. And she ends up saying Nia and Tamina did something else too. They awoke the dragon. And they got Beth Phoenix thinking. She ends up saying maybe their dream could still become a reality. She says she's accomplished so much, but there's just one thing missing. So they'll take on all comers anytime, any place, anywhere. And so Beth Phoenix says she's ready to unretire, stand beside Natalya, and challenge Sasha and Bayley for the Women's Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania. And Bayley says that'd be a huge honor, but asks if they would rather have a little more time to prepare. And she ends up saying Beth's been retired for 6 years. She says, with all due respect and competition around here has evolved, is what Bayley's saying. And Natalya says, with all due respect, this is Beth Phoenix, the Glamazon, a WWE Hall of Famer. And Natalya says it was in this very arena that Beth Phoenix won the Women's Championship. And Sasha Banks asks Natalya who the hell she thinks she's talking to. She ends up saying they live and bleed for this business, and they know who Beth is. The woman who coattails Natalya. The woman who coattails Natalya, is riding, just so they can have a match at WrestleMania. And so Natalya ends up decking Sasha, and then we got a brawl. Beth Phoenix and Bayley end up staring each other down. Beth Phoenix ends up shoving her away. So Raw goes to commercial. And then we had a match. Sasha Banks versus Natalya. Which, Nia Jax ended up coming out. And Beth Phoenix, she ends up saying, Beth Phoenix is jealous because she's getting all this recognition and has done more in 3 years than she did in her whole career. She ends up saying, further, she's the prettier, stronger version of the Glamazon. And so then we had Tamina ends up attacking, from behind, and she ends up super kicking, for the tag champs. So Sasha Banks ends up winning the match by disqualification. Then we got Mojo Rawley. He was talking to himself in the mirror. Out of the blue, they write Mojo Rawley back into the show, talking to himself in the mirror when he wasn't shown in months. And Mojo Rawley talks about how he despises the word potential, asking, what good it is if you don't do anything with it. So it was just that. Then we had Ricochet versus Jinder Mahal. This match was boring. This match was shit. Ricochet, gotta say, did his best here to take down Jinder Mahal. But the outcome of the match, it was slow, it was shit, it was boring. Of course, you had the Singh brothers out there. The Singh brothers tried to interfere in the match. And we saw Ricochet do a pretty cool run-in shooting star press on Jinder Mahal. But Jinder ended up kicking out of it. And so at the end of the match, Ricochet ended up winning. He ended up pinning the 630 on Jinder Mahal. Scored the win. So it was pretty much an easy win for Ricochet. Then we had Seth Rollins. He was being interviewed. Goes on to say that it's really simple. You hurt his brothers. You better be prepared to get hurt. Goes on to say if he's got to wear Drew McIntyre out with a chair, so be it. He goes on to say tonight is for Dean and for Roman and kind of for Brock Lesnar too. And so Seth says he hopes Lesnar is watching because he's not going to be pushed around and he's not afraid to fight fire with fire, which Lesnar will find out when he burns Suplex City straight to the ground. So it was a decent interview with Seth. Then we had Charlie Caruso. She was interviewing Dana Brooke on if Dana is thinking what she's getting into with Ronda Rousey. And Dana says, "I'm Dana Brooke, and this is the road to WrestleMania, when dreams become reality and underdogs make history." She says she's not naive. She might not be better than Ronda Rousey, but all she has to do is be better than her for 3 seconds to become Raw Women's Champion. And so then we had the match. Ronda Rousey versus Dana Brooke for the Raw Women's Championship. And this match only lasted 15 seconds. This was a really quick 15-second match. Ronda Rousey just dominated during these 15 seconds. Ended up locking in the arm bar on Dana Brooke. Dana Brooke ended up tapping out, so Ronda still retains the Raw Women's Championship. After the match, Ronda ended up still had the arm bar locked in on Dana Brooke. Dana Brooke was screaming. Referees end up having to come out to let Ronda break, the arm bar off of Dana Brooke. And so Ronda ends up shoving one of the refs. And security comes down. Ronda ends up slapping one of the security guys. And we also saw her husband, Travis Brown, who was sitting front row. Travis Brown ends up punching another security guy. And so she ended up picking up Ronda. And they ended up leaving. They ended up going through the crowd, ended up leaving. So, well, in all, the match itself, it was 15 seconds, 15-second match. And boy, oh boy, next was Apollo Crews versus Baron Corbin. This was boring. This was a shit match. Anytime you have Baron Corbin in a match, it's going to be fucking shit. It's going to be boring. But Apollo Crews end up winning the match. End up, rolling up Corbin with a small package. So, Apollo Crews wins. After the match, Kurt Angle ended up coming out. End up shaking Apollo's hand, congratulating him on the win. So, match itself, it was shit. It was boring. Then we had Batista. He was being interviewed via satellite from Tampa, Florida. He goes on to say that he just doesn't like Triple H, and since he left, all he's wanted to do is come back and have this one last match. And he says it goes back way further than Evolution, and that he keeps hearing that he owes his career to Triple H. He goes on to say way before Evolution, all he did was groom him to be his muscle. And that's all Triple H does. Batista goes on to say that Triple H uses people to protect him and make him look good. And, you know, he's like, that's what Triple H did to him, to Batista. Batista says, you know, Triple H used him like a big, dumb meathead, held him down, and shut him out, and also underestimated him. And so Batista ends up saying that he blames Triple H for him leaving WWE back in 2010. If you remember that, when Batista was on Monday Night Raw, and he was in the ring, he was in a wheelchair, and he was going, and he said, "I quit." So that's what Batista was talking about back in 2010 when he left, blaming Triple H. And he says he takes issue with it being phrased as he quit because he's got Triple H jealous and insecure. And he goes on to say that he knows that Triple H knows he can't beat him, so he won't get his fair opportunity. And so Batista says he left because of Triple H. And he's like, look at what he's accomplished since then. You know, he has worldwide fame, he has movie star status, and he says he's now in control without Triple H. So Batista says here he is, demanding the match he deserves and getting it. And Batista takes offense to Michael Cole because Michael Cole was trying to defend Triple H and says, that's what he does. And that's why he calls himself the cerebral assassin. So he says Batista says Triple H is the most insecure, jealous control freak he's ever met. He goes on to say that's the real Triple H. And so he says one day, hopefully soon, Vince is going to wake up and fire Triple H's ass. And so Batista says at WrestleMania, he's going to end Triple H's in-ring career. And so that's how the interview with Batista ended. So, but I enjoyed this Batista interview. I enjoyed it. We're really looking forward to their match at WrestleMania. Hopefully WWE doesn't fuck it up, with the match. So, but yeah, and there's been a lot of those memes going around the video where Batista, was like, "I want, this match," and then they add like, music like clips. Like I saw like they did like a Spice Girls video with Batista saying, "Oh, I really, really want," and they put like the Spice Girls, wannabe song. And I saw like there was a Rick James parody, and they put Batista in there, like, "Give me what I want." But they've been really funny. I've been seeing them online. They're really funny. So Then after that, we had Charlie Caruso. She ends up interviewing Braun Strowman, of course, about the Michael Che, Colin Jost thing that happened last week, where Colin Jost, gave Braun Strowman a gift, which was a car, and Strowman ended up destroying it. And what was really funny, after Strowman destroyed it, a toy with Braun Strowman and a car went up on WWE Shop. It's kind of weird and funny at the same time. But Strowman ends up saying to Charlie Caruso that Michael Che and Colin Jost came to his house and disrespected his job. And Strowman says he's so angry that he's entering the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal in memory of Andre the Giant to give as many people these hands as he can. And so Alexa Bliss comes to say that she needs to broker a peace between him and that those guys and X for a week to make it right. So Strowman agrees to give Alexa a week, but promises if she comes up empty, they'll learn what discipline really means. And so that was the interview with Braun Strowman. And then next was the main event, Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. So before the match, Drew McIntyre ended up coming out. He ended up saying, actions speak so much louder than words. And so he rolls a video package of when he attacked Roman Reigns last week. And so he ends up saying, when Roman came back, everyone rejoiced. He goes on to say that at Fastlane, he could tell Roman wasn't the same man and relied on his Shield brothers to do the heavy lifting. He goes on to say, now the Shield is no more. And he goes on to say Seth Rollins attacked him from behind like a coward. And why? So McIntyre says Seth Rollins attacked him from behind like a coward, saying he is just like that. Seth is like all of us. Now he's deluded and lives in a fantasy world of heroes. And that's why he pulled the curtain back and revealed the truth. And goes on to say, so McIntyre says this is his yard now. He says he wants to speak not to Roman, but to Joe the man now, Joe Anoa'i, who's sitting on his, he goes on to say, who's sitting on his couch now because of him. And if he wants to be a hero and inspiration so bad, McIntyre says he has a challenge for him. And so he challenges Joe to a fight. And so McIntyre says, it's not just any fight. He wants a fight at WrestleMania. And so he says he knows the answer already, and so do we. And he wants Roman to take a moment, look at his wife and children, and say no, to choose his family, not these people that don't give a damn about him. And he says, McIntyre says, what he did to the Shield guys this week will be nothing compared to WrestleMania. And Roman can beat leukemia. And so Seth Rollins was backstage, and he says that right there is what he did earlier tonight to McIntyre. And so he goes on to say that the chair shots were for his brothers, but this is for him. And so Seth Rollins ends up coming out, making his entrance, and Drew runs up the ramp, and they start going at it on the ramp, punches. The referees end up coming out. The road agents end up coming out to separate them. And so then we have the match. Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. And the match itself wasn't a bad match. It was a decent match. It was back and forth between them. But at the end of the match, Drew McIntyre ended up winning because Brock Lesnar ended up coming out to distract Seth Rollins. And so Rollins had his eyes focused on Lesnar. And as Rollins ended up turning around, McIntyre ended up laying out Seth with a Claymore kick. And so Drew McIntyre ends up winning the match. But all in all, wasn't a bad match. It was a decent match. But aside from the Batista interview, the main event, and the opening to Raw, everything else was meh. Everything else was complete shit. So yeah. So anyways, that's it for this. That's it for this review of tonight's Monday Night Raw. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. And definitely give this video a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. And if you guys haven't checked out my previous video, I did a live video showcasing my revisit to Calvert Park in Brooklyn. So definitely go check out that video. I give a tour of the park, a year later. So definitely go check out that video if you haven't seen it. And also stay tuned tomorrow night for the SmackDown review. And I'm looking forward to SmackDown. I know it's going to be a decent show, hopefully, because their build for WrestleMania has been pretty decent, and really am liking it. So yes. Anyways, that's it for this video, and stay tuned tomorrow night for the SmackDown review.